I think I'll be a huge bitch. I'm not ever a bitch. I feel like I'll do it and just be like, yeah.
G-Flip is the Aussie artist who surged from Triple J plays to international tours, becoming probably the most prominent non-binary musician along the way. Their latest album, Dream Ride, is laced with 80s influences and reaches whole new levels of queer pride.
G.
Yo.
And congrats on the new album.
Oh, thank you.
Some of your lyrics are so boldly gay.
Haha. Me being myself is the representation I needed when I was a kid. I never watched online and not online, I was too young then, I was watching TV. I never watched TV and saw, a non-binary drumming, singing queer person growing up. I didn't see much gay media, whether it was in storylines on TV or on radio or just anywhere. So now that I'm the person making the art, I have fun just being so gay, and I like to go there and I don't shy away from it.
I know how you think and what you like and what your body needs. Convinced you should run from me. I'm not what you planned. I'll be your man.
I have to say, your identity and being publicly non-binary and your relationship with Chriselle has meant so much for regular queers like myself. My spouse Claire is also non-binary. It honestly felt like you guys kind of validated our relationship in this way that I didn't realise was missing.
Oh, interesting.
You've always said that you wanted to be the representation that you didn't get to have.
Yeah.
Does that ever take its toll?
To be honest, not really. I feel like I'm comfortable and confident in who I am. I feel like, being me obviously angers some people, but it's never really affected me. And saying that, for other people who are non-binary, because of the way I look, I might be treated a different way. For other people who are non-binary, who could be BIPOC or might be more masculine presenting, they have a different story because they might not be as passing as female for the people who are really harsh on people with different genders are. So that is a reality that I'm facing that's I'm female passing, so people might treat me differently.
I'm curious, you mentioned being a kid there and what it was like. I'm curious how that affected playing the drums and if you felt a lot of gender dysphoria and what that experience was like for you as a kid.
Yeah, as a kid I always wanted to be a boy. So I grew up Catholic. And I always thought that God ran out a girl brain and put boy, so I'm 50-50. So I grew up, and I was 7 or 8 when I would think that.
I don't feel like I'm a girl, no boy, so where do I lie?
Growing up, I always felt non-binary, just didn't have the words to identify that way. So then when I educated myself on being non-binary, I was like, oh my God, I'm so non-binary.
I feel like the language has kind of only really come out in the last decade or so.
Yeah, 100%. I think what's really beautiful is with the younger generation coming up, pronouns, for example, so easy.
Yeah.
It's not even
it's not a thing.
It's not even a thing.
I look myself in the mirror, I say what the fuck are you?
Do you still have experiences of gender dysphoria?
Yeah, I'm always going back and forth with I want to have top surgery. I'm always should I? Because I wear a binder, so I'm wearing a binder right now. And I like the look of myself wearing clothes and not having boobs.
Yeah.
My gender dysphoria, and that's what gender dysphoria kind of is you look at yourself and you're like, oh, this doesn't feel like me. So I'm always going back and forth, and I'll probably do it one day. But yeah, I wear a binder every single day, and they're really
they're tight.
And I play all my shows wearing a binder. Right. So I'm playing drums and singing and jumping and moving and I finish most days. I have such sore traps. From my binders.
Yeah.
But it makes me feel better in my own skin. When I don't wear a binder and I want to be more comfy that day, I don't look in the mirror and exactly like what I look like. And I don't like the look of me having a set of tits.
Yeah.
So, and that's what people experience with gender dysphoria. They might not like their hips being big, or they might not like how their legs look or, you know, what's between their legs. You know, everyone's gender dysphoria is different, but for me, that's probably the main one that I'm like, oh, I'm always back and forth. And I want to get my eggs out as well. So I'm like, well, I need to have a break to just do a bunch of surgery and then...
I've frozen my eggs. I've got like 16 eggs in a freezer down the road.
Really?
Yeah. So froze my eggs, but my fertility had dropped dramatically in like just a couple of
Really?
years. Yeah, like it did this.
Oh my God,
thing.
really?
I mean, I feel better now that I've done it.
And you have to...
Yeah, like jab yourself.
I couldn't be on tour and do it.
I don't know. Like it kind of depends on like your body
Yeah.
and what's going on. Like
I
all
think I'll
sorts
be
of
a
shit.
huge bitch. I'm not ever a bitch. I feel like I'll do it and just be like, yeah. But, you know, we'll see when it happens.
Yeah. How are you guys finding the whole like family journey? Because there's so much decision making when it comes to being
Yeah.
queer and like thinking about starting a family.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about this too much just because we've been going through a really, really
Fair.
tough time
Yeah.
with it. And it's been really, really hard. So, but what I will say is that, like, I understand how hard it is and how many ups and downs it is. It's such a journey, and not only just for queer people, because there's, you know, straight people and heterosexual people. Heterosexual?
Straight and heterosexual.
Same thing?
I guess. Or I guess you could say like people who are doing it single, like solo parents.
Yeah, people trying to have a baby IVF single or in straight relationships or queer, like it's tough for anyone and it's hard. And the IVF journey or the journey of egg retrieval and, you know, sperm count and everything, it's a delicate subject for a lot of people and it's a rough journey. And it's, like I said, there's good news and then there's bad news and then there's hope and then there's zero hope and then are we going to give up? Are we going to try it again, you know? So me and Chriselle have just been navigating that for a little bit and it's been really hard. It's been rough.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, it's, you know, there's so many people in the world go through it.
I will be waiting.
I wanted to ask you about one song on your album, In Another Life, which
sure.
I read was dedicated to that experience of losing someone. If you had to dedicate that song to someone, who would you dedicate it to?
There's a few people in my life that actually inspired that song. The first person I thought of when I finished writing this song was, you know, a fan of mine who comes to nearly all my shows around the world and travels. She's amazing and she lost her partner but still buys 2 tickets and comes to all my shows because I was their favourite artist. So I thought of her when I wrote it. I thought of a friend who lost a baby, you know, a friend that lost their father and like just all these people, and I wanted to write a song that was about loss but also had that hope of maybe I'll be with you in another life and I'll be there with open arms. And for me, I've had various losses in my life, but one that's very real was when my drum teacher passed away. You know, when you have an idol, like my sister loved the Spice Girls, wanted to be a Spice Girl. Like I really grew up and I never really had a person like that, because I also kind of was non-binary, thought I was like a boy. Like I wanted to be more like a guy that I saw playing drums or something. But Jenny was the first person that I was like, we kind of dressed the same and like, you know, back then it was called a tomboy. Jenny was a bit of a tomboy, and played drums and played in a band and did backing vocals and would drive to Sydney and Adelaide to play shows. And as a 13-year-old, I was like, oh, I want to be exactly like them. And they were my drum teacher. I used to do double lessons. I used to wag class and just go hang out. I feel like they like made me who I am. And it's like, you know, I'll see you in another life. Like we'll meet up and we'll drum again, you know?
Even if it's meant to be you and me in another life.